Coming to paperback and e-readers, from the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women are becoming lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Pre-order your copy of The Woman Crisis on Amazon.com today. Over the weekend, the chief financial officer of Bed Bath & Beyond took his life by jumping from the 18th floor of the iconic Jenga building in Manhattan. Now, in this incident, which took place on a Saturday, I believe, Gustavo Arnal, the 52-year-old chief financial officer of Bed Bath & Beyond, jumped from the iconic Jenga skyscraper on the 18th floor, and this led to his death. Now, the police are seeing the jumping off the Jenga building of Gustavo Arnal as a suicide, but when I take a critical examination of the actions of Gustavo Arnal, they fit right in line with the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And your Gustavo Arnal looks like he was one of those beta males who liked living in a smooth world. And your beta male likes to have a smooth world where they have no conflicts, no problems, and no obstacles. And a major obstacle was being placed in front of Gustavo Arnal on August 23rd, which was a class action lawsuit filed as related to a alleged pump and dump scheme that was designed to inflate the stock price of Bed Bath & Beyond, the company Gustavo Arnal worked for, and create a pump and dump scheme where they would inflate the price of the stock, get people to buy into the stock, and then after they got people to buy into the stock, they would go out here and dump their shares of the stock, leaving all of those investors holding a bag. Now, this is a very diabolical scheme, and it's one that could possibly tarnish the career of a seasoned executive like a Gustavo Arnal, who was 52 years old and had already done 20 years working at Procter & Gamble. And after building a professional reputation for over 20 years, your Gustavo Arnal probably lived in a very smooth world where he was used to a certain lifestyle, and with him being used to a certain lifestyle and a certain public image, he didn't want to see that image tarnished by this scandal. And it looks like possibly that this scandal, just hearing about the allegations of it, really spooked your Gustavo Arnal, and this is what motivated him to take his life, because if the people filing this class action lawsuit could prove their case, possibly in court, this would destroy Gustavo Arnal's professional reputation and destroy his professional image. So he didn't want to see his smooth world destroyed by this alleged scandal. So this is possibly why your Gustavo Arnal wound up taking his life, because he wound up, again, selling over 55,000 shares of the company over the last month for $1.4 million, and he, even though he had 255,000 more shares, the whole thing was, the whole allegation was one that was basically would tarnish his whole career, because again, if an executive is proven to be part of a pump and dump scheme, then his career is over, because if you're a chief financial officer and you're participating in financial chicanery like this, then basically your professional career is over, because nobody can trust you as related to the finances of a company. And over the last couple of months, Bed Bath & Beyond's whole stock issues have been showing that the company possibly is not solvent. And if your Gustavo Arnal is actually guilty of these allegations, again, this would basically destroy his professional reputation and his professional image, and the smooth world that he lived in for over 20 years would basically turn into a very rough world, because again, he would be known as being the person who destroyed Bed Bath & Beyond, a major retailer, and he would also be known for participating in this pump and dump scheme. And again, these could possibly lead into federal crimes. So he possibly saw that the handwriting was on the wall as related to Bed Bath & Beyond, and he didn't want to deal with possible criminal charges and possibly having to go to the federal penitentiary and having to go from being an executive who made millions of dollars to being traded by Bubba and Tiny for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, cups of coffee, cans of Dr. Pepper, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies, and fudge rounds. He probably wanted to avoid having to deal with a prison sentence if these allegations were true, and what would happen is this is why he took his life. But a lot of times when beta males cannot cope with people not seeing how perfect they are as related to the smooth world they've created, they go out here and take their lives, because a lot of times your beta male is embarrassed or ashamed of the behavior they are participated in. And because these males don't want to stand up as men and take responsibility for their actions, what these beta males do is they go out here and take their lives to keep from having to deal with the accountability for their actions. And this could possibly be the reason why your Gustavo Arnau wound up taking his life, because he didn't want to face up to the responsibilities of as related to your Bed Bath & Beyond being in the financial dire straits that it's in, and he didn't want to take accountability for his part in leading Bed Bath & Beyond to be in a place where they may not be able to go beyond because the company is no longer fiscally solvent. That's a major thing as related to a man's professional reputation, having to realize that you basically destroyed a company. And that's one of the reasons why this male became a man in crisis, and this man in crisis wound up taking his life because he couldn't take the idea of people seeing that he wasn't perfect. He couldn't take the idea of people seeing that he had made mistakes, and he could not take the idea that people were going to see him as imperfect. And this is what beta males do, because again, when beta males go out here and they get a job, they want their world to be smooth. They want everybody to see the good that they're doing, and they don't want to sit there and realize that they have made mistakes and that these mistakes are part of life. Again, people make mistakes all the time, and sometimes you fail, and that's just a part of life. But the beta male, they want to be perfect. They want everyone to see how perfect they are, and they don't want anybody to see their flaws. And once somebody sees their flaws or their flaws get revealed, what the beta male would want to do is they want to go out here and hide. And if they can't hide from and avoid the accountability for their actions, what they want to do is escape by taking their own life. And that's what it looks like here happened with Gustavo Arnau. It looked like he could not take people seeing him as an executive and his professional reputation in a negative light due to this pump and dump scheme that's being alleged and the lawsuit around it. And he couldn't take the whole idea of his professional career possibly ending as a result of him going out here and destroying Bed Bath & Beyond. The shame was so great as related to this executive's embarrassing alleged behavior that he could not handle the pressure as related to the consequences of his actions. And because he couldn't handle the consequences, this is why this man wound up taking his life possibly. Now, this is why a man in crisis does need help, and he needs to admit that he needs help, because you can't live in a smooth world. No, the world is a rough place. The world is a hard place. But many beta males never understand how hard the world is, because they want to be this perfect person. They want to go out in a perfect way. And the whole thing is there's nothing perfect about life, and everybody makes mistakes. And sometimes you make really bad mistakes, but beta males are afraid of showing their flaws, and that's why they would rather die than live in a world where people see the mistakes that they make. and see how imperfect they are in this world. But people who love people understand that people make mistakes, and they accept that, okay, this guy has made a mistake here, so we understand, okay, this is you making a mistake, things aren't working out the way that they are, and then they go ask for help from those who could possibly help them so that they can go out here and do better. But the beta male's pride won't let him go out here and ask for help, and that's how he becomes a man in crisis. And as he starts to deal with conflict and his world starts to get rough, he starts to look for ways to get out of this life instead of confronting the problems and working towards a solution where everybody can see that he has the character to be a better man. But no, instead of working to show people that he could be a better man, he shows everybody that he is a man in crisis. And as that man in crisis, he looks to end his life so that people won't see the bad things that he did or the mistakes that he's made. And that's what makes him a very dysfunctional individual, because you have to accept that, okay, you've made a mistake. And again, the world isn't smooth. And in a world where everything is rough, you have to work with others to make things better. But sadly, a beta male doesn't want to work towards making things better. He just wants to either lie about the things that are going on, deny the problems in his life, or hide the evidence of his mistakes. And when people unearth his mistakes and unearth his failures, this is where he gets embarrassed, and this is where he wants to take his life, because he's so ashamed of people seeing that he's human. But this is something many beta males don't want to work on, because many of these males, again, their moms have told them that they're perfect. But the sad thing is, there's nobody to tell them that, okay, nothing's wrong with making a mistake, and there's nothing wrong with you for making a mistake. But again, this is what happens when you put a man in crisis in an executive position. He looks to create a smooth world, and the sad part is the business world isn't smooth. And if you can't handle a rough patch, sadly you wind up like this executive who had everything going for him except understanding how the world worked, because he probably didn't get the male life skills and male survival skills he needed to understand how to deal with a hard time. And again, this is a man in crisis. And again, it shows that beta males are everywhere, including executive positions. And when you put them in leadership positions, many of these men fall apart whenever they have to run into an obstacle. And when they run into an obstacle, they leave a gaping hole that people have to deal with, and they leave a whole lot of problems that a company like Bed Bath & Beyond are going to have to deal with, because your Bed Bath & Beyond is now going to have to try to navigate through this man's mess now that he has passed. And it may prove to be an even bigger mess, because oftentimes when you're dealing with beta males, they leave major messes, and the whole reason why they take their life is because everything under that rug that they made in that smooth world is extremely rough. And by the time you clean up the mess, you find out it's just a disaster of epic proportions. And it's just something that some companies like Bed Bath & Beyond may wind up being in a big problem. I mean, your Bed Bath & Beyond could possibly be on the brink of bankruptcy or going out of business, and the CFO could have possibly hidden this. And again, it just shows you what happens when you put a beta male in a leadership position. It just leads to nothing but chaos at the end of the day. Now, if you want to learn more about the dysfunctional behavior of beta males and how it can do damage to people's lives, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBook store, and Google Play. And if you want to see me do more men's issues videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.